Hi everyone, this is Kyle with kayDbait. I wanted to make a video. This is earlier today. Pope Francis was at, he was in the United States, addressing Congress, addressing all the politicians that were there, asking the United States to do certain things. And I watched it live. I was very excited about it because I wanted to see what was going to happen, because it's kind of been talked about for a long time, about him coming and him addressing these issues, and then the response that was being projected back. And I was really confused on what he was going to talk about, because people were saying, well, he's going to talk about this, 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 and this. And there was a backlash saying, well, he shouldn't talk about these things. So I had never heard him speak English before, so I didn't know if he was going to have a translator. I didn't know how it was going to go, how long it was going to be. And I was actually really interested. I didn't know it was happening today. I didn't know he was going to be speaking English. I didn't even know he spoke English, which is pretty cool. So anyway, some of the things he said, I was watching it live with a little chat room on the side of it. It was on YouTube, and there was a little like show that started up before it, because it was a YouTube channel where they were streaming it live, and they gave their ideas, the history of the Pope before he became the Pope. They were talking about his book, the autobiography thing that he had before he became the Pope, and they were talking about the things that he's already said in the past and what was going to be talked about when he addressed the Congress. And it was really interesting because some of the stuff he talked about, some of the things that he mentioned were not being taken well in the chat on the side of the thing, because he was like, there was 3 or 4 people, because there was about 200 and something people watching with me. It wasn't the biggest stream. I'm sure there were bigger ones everywhere, but I think that at the height of it, there was like 230-ish people in it, and there was maybe 3 or 4 people that were really active in the chat that were just yelling at each other. And I tried messaging, this is a place of, fair discussion, we're trying to be fair here, because that's really what the chat log was supposed to be. Is like, please talk about what you believe, and just talk about it, like discuss it. It was about discussion, and these people were they were insulting each other, and I was trying to figure out why. So I commented, this is a place of discussion, please don't make personal attacks. And one person thanked me, and then nobody else commented on it, and then they just kept yelling at each other. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna minimize this. So I ended up minimizing that so that it wasn't, because it was distracting for me. I was trying to listen to the guy talk, and this thing kept popping up with random junk, and I'm like, okay, this isn't adding to it. I'm just gonna not watch that, because I was trying to read it and listen, and because English wasn't his first language, I had to really listen to understand some of the stuff he said, because there was no subtitles or translation or anything. So some of the things he said, like the people on the side just yelling at each other, was kind of annoying, but the things that he said, the things that he was trying to push, like he mentioned, and you'll see this all over the internet already, but one of them was climate change. We need to do something. Slave labor. We need to make deals with like China and all those things. We need to stop that. He commented on capitalism. He said corporations are good. They can bring prosperity. They can bring money, but they have to use that for the good of the people, the good of the people that need it. So he's like, okay, capitalism can be used for good, and which is true. I mean, you can any donation thing that gives their money to the poor, yeah, that's cool. But it was an argument in humanity. It was pretty much that he wasn't arguing against capitalism. He was arguing against greed. He was arguing against the evils of just self-indulgence and the way somebody, like, I'm going to make money for myself, is like that in itself will lead to the problems that we've been having. That's what he was saying. And there were people because this is before that I closed the thing. They were just saying, he's a socialist, and he's anti-American, and he's a false prophet, and I was like, okay, you can say those as long as you have arguments for it, but they weren't making arguments. They were just saying these things, And somebody kept posting that he was a self-aggrandizing, self-centered, just calling him really bad names. And I was like, okay, explain that. Explain where that's coming from, and then you'll have a wider, form of discussion. If you say that, like, while he's talking, to try and rile people up to yell at you, because people were there to listen to him speak. If you're there to just yell at him, because you're not listening to it if you're typing, which I was having a lot, that's why I was having trouble going back and forth. It's like, okay, I need to stop this. It's very distracting for me. Okay, you're not there to listen to him anymore. You're there to yell and to cause problems. So I was like, please give your reasons, give this, give that, and they weren't. So close it, whatever. So there was a lot of things he said that were bringing up discussion, and I think that's a really good thing. What those discussions are doesn't necessarily matter, because there's so many things we should be talking about that we're not anyway. So it was like, if he was going to he brought up marriage very briefly. He brought up the death penalty very briefly. He was saying it as like, we need to fix this. We need to deal with these things. The only thing I heard him say about marriage was that family is something to be celebrated. That's really all he said. So he didn't say, I don't know what he was going to say about gay marriage, or the history of marriage, or where he thinks marriage is heading. Is it getting better or worse? I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything being said about that from him. So he's made comments in the past, but those have always been translated, and their interpretation has been changed throughout the different things that I've read about it. So I don't know 100% what his stance is on any kind of, like, there's secular marriage, there's the marriage between people and God, there's the because that's what priests do. They're married to God pretty much. That's why they're not supposed to. There's a lot of different things, and this is the Catholic Church. There's also different denominations that have different views of this as well. There's actually, I know a Catholic priest that is married, and you're not supposed to be, but he actually, the previous pope, he was already married. He became, I believe he became married after he was a priest, and he actually got the Pope's permission. He's the only ordained minister or ordained priest. I don't remember exactly what it was. He was the only one, and he had the Pope's permission to do that. The Pope actually told him he could do that. So I was really excited because I got to talk to him, and he was in an ethics thing at my college, and it was really cool. And he did a lot of public speaking. He was a very interesting individual, and so the popes have the power to do things. They have a lot of these different powers they can use within the church to say, this person's allowed to do this, or this person's forgiven for this, when no one else is allowed to do that. Whether you believe that that's just inherently good or bad, or if it's an abuse of some kind, because there's a lot of arguments. I was just reading an argument just like not even 5 minutes ago. This is right before I popped this up. Whereas all the reasons the Pope is a false prophet, like all the reasons why. It was huge. It was probably 10 pages long, and I was trying to read it all, but I didn't understand fully because he was quoting a lot of people. I didn't know who they were. So one of them was he's self-aggrandizing. One of them is that he believes he is a Messiah, or he believes that he is the divine power on earth. I've never heard him say any of that stuff. I've listened to a lot of things he said, translated, because I don't know any of the other languages, but I've never heard him say that he is divine. I've never heard him say that, so I'm not sure why they were saying, because they were not quotes. They were saying this is what he has said, but they weren't quotes. They're like, he has said he is divine. That's not a quote, so I don't know where it came from. So I can't look it up. I can't find any videos of him saying that, or anything where he has said that, or where he has called for people to worship him. I've never seen that, so I don't know what that is. Because when you're looking up information, when you're looking up people that are inherently controversial, like the Pope, he stands for something. He is in a position of great conflict, of great of problems, because you have the Catholic Church that he represents. And the Catholic Church, everything they do, whether he whether he agrees with it or not, everything they do bottlenecks into him, saying you have to deal with this. If you don't deal with this, are you condoning it or are you condemning it, or is it just not important? Like the one of the people in the chat really early on just said the Pope is a pedophile. Kind of he supports this because he hasn't stopped it yet. He hasn't dealt with it in the Catholic Church. They're all pedophiles. They're all, degenerates. Just they're all false prophets kind of thing. And that in itself is it's generalizing greatly. I personally believe that if you are a good person, you are a good person. What you believe is what you believe. If your belief systems are the reason you are a good person, that can be, that can be fine, as long as your belief system doesn't also make you do something else that's crazy. So there's a lot of different, like, the reason behind your actions is important, but not necessarily, like, there's always different variations of that. It's like, I'm a good person because I don't want to get forever tormented, but if I wasn't going to get tormented, I would murder everyone. That's scary. That's very scary, and I've met people that are like that. It's like, the only reason why I don't kill you in your sleep is because I don't want to go to hell. And those people terrify me, but I also can't really, yell at them because they're not going to murder me in my sleep. I don't know. It's just something that I have a problem with, and that it scares me, but as long as they're not killing people, I guess. It's inherently controversial. But so the Pope, he was talking about these things, controversial subjects, because they're political in nature. Global warming, it has been a big political issue because there's scientists saying one thing, there's politicians saying another thing, and then there's policies that are not coinciding with what people are arguing, or that are what people are arguing, but other people disagree with it. So there's arguing back and forth. And one of the things he said was that we should not get trapped in discussion. And for a second, because I'm all about the discussion, I'm all about talking things through completely. He said we can't get stuck in discussion. And when he said that, I had to stop and really, really think about what that meant. And what I do is I reiterate things a lot, over and over and over again, to make sure that things are clear. But when you have a politicized arena, where you have hundreds of people all arguing, I think what he was saying, and I don't know 100%, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, I'm not trying to argue this is what he said, this is what I thought he meant when I was really trying to think about it, is when you have a group of people, like not a cabinet, what are those called? It's where you have a large group of people all trying to make a decision. I don't remember what those are called. It's a political term, I don't remember what it was. But you have that, and they never come to a conclusion because they're always arguing. And I think that's what he meant, because we have a bipartisan system. We have two major groups, the Republicans and the Democrats. We do have other splinters around, like independents, and we have environmentalists, and we have all these things. But the big ones, the Republican and the Democrats, are always fighting about almost everything. And the only thing they really agree on are generally things that aren't as important, that are just not talked about as much. So they're not as politically important. They're not as important to the common person. I mean, they should be, but they're not talked about as much. So they're not argued about. If they were talked about, they would be argued about. So the issue was, we need to stop doing that. We need to stop arguing and start fixing things. So that in itself, it's hard to wrap my head around, because it's not something that I'm used to discussing, because it sounds like it conflicts with my ideals, like my idea that we should always talk about something before acting. But also, I understand that when it's true, when something is true, and you're simply discussing something that is it's like beating a dead horse, or it's having a group of people argue about a thing that shouldn't be argued about, it should already be fixed. It's like it's too late to talk about it anymore. Maybe. So global warming, or climate change, or whatever you want to call it. It's like, we can't push this to the next generation. If we keep arguing about it, we're pushing it to the next generation because we're not acting on it. Or something like that. He did say we can't push it to the next generation, because that's what we've been doing. We've been saying, you know, whatever, 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 whatever. Oh, now it's the next generation. Whatever, 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 whatever. Next generation. Whatever, whatever. Oh, it's too late. That kind of thing. You know, whether it's true or not does need to be addressed. He's saying it's true. There's a lot of scientists saying it's true. There's some scientists saying it's not true. What I've seen, and you've seen this in previous videos, unless I deleted them, I don't remember, is that there are politicians that are saying it's not true because they say it's not true. They say the scientists are lying and the Pope should not even be mentioning it because it's not his. Pope's not an expert. Don't listen to him. Scientists are biased. Don't listen to them. Listen to me because I'm right. And I don't understand that, but that's the argument that I've seen. But I know that there are people that know and they're not believe, like for and against. It's like this and this affect nature. That and this don't affect nature. So we need to figure out what to do. Stuff like that. I'll go back to the Pope. This video is about the Pope. I respect him as a person. I respect the things that he says because what he says is usually in line with humanitarian ideals. I try to be a humanitarian. What, in my definition of what I believe humanitarian means. Like there's a lot of different definitions for that. The official one I might not coincide with perfectly. My idea of what a humanitarian is and what that means, it's a personal thing to me. I believe that the Pope represents a lot of what I believe in, which is one of the reasons why I respect him. I respect a lot of people that are like that. You know, one of the things he said was that we need dignity, respect, and fairness in the representatives and from the representatives to who they represent. Like that's not an exact quote, but he was pretty much saying that you as the leaders have the power to be an equalizing force, to be a force of good for everyone, not just yourselves. Corporations have the same power. They can spread the wealth. They can spread the benevolence and the love and the kindness and the generosity so that everyone has what they need. And he also touched on arms dealing being really bad because innocent people die, and we need to stop that. You know, the slavery and the abuse of people for the sake of making money. We need to stop that. Pure raw capitalism at its worst needs to be stopped. It's pretty much what he was saying. So he was making points, and I didn't agree with everything he said because obviously he is a devout Catholic who has ideals that don't necessarily reflect on somebody that is not a devout Catholic. But that doesn't mean I don't respect him as a person. That doesn't mean I don't respect his ideals or his belief system. I respect him. I respect what he is trying to do and his ideas. And I've said this before. I am not right all the time, and I don't think I'm right most of the time. But I respect people that think. I respect people that have the discourse, the discussion, the communication, the respect of others, giving the respect, I mean. And he has shown that. He is an authority. He's a very powerful authority. He doesn't push people. He asks people, and he's like, we should do this, and he leads by example. I have seen a lot of the things that he's done, and I have read about a lot of the other things that he's done. He used to sneak out of the Vatican to volunteer at soup kitchens and stuff like that. He's washed the feet of criminals as a humble act. He has kissed the sick. He has, blessed the children of poor families, or he has shown humility. I respect that. So whether I agree with everything he says, that doesn't matter. I respect what he is representing. And when people accuse him of being false, it doesn't matter if he's a false prophet, it doesn't matter if he's a false whatever they're accusing him of. I believe he's being genuine. That's what I believe. And I don't know what that means necessarily, like in the long run, like 10 years from now, 20 years from now. how he'll be remembered or what his effect would be on the world. He's split a lot of the more conservative Catholics and the more liberal Catholics. He's kind of split them a little bit more, where he's being more open, more forgiving. He's more about forgiveness. He's more about trying to get people to be like Jesus. And whether I agree with that or not doesn't matter. The person that they say Jesus was like, he was humble, he was giving, he was caring, he was inclusive, he hung out with the sinners and the lepers and the prostitutes so that he can help them. He did not scorn them. He did not punish them. He asked them, like the stories in the stuff in the Bible. I've read it. I've tried to learn it so that I can understand it better. The stuff Jesus stood for was not himself. It was not for his own gain. It was for others. And whether you believe that is true or not, whether you can see it as an allegory, you can see it as a metaphor, you can see it as a story or as reality, however you see it, you can take the good parts of that, the ideas that being kind to one another or being generous, even though you don't have much, to be a good Samaritan or to be kind to your neighbor, whether you agree with them or not. Those are the kinds of things I stand for. Those are the kind of things that I believe are right and that would make the world better if others did that. So when I see somebody, anyone, any walk of life, any position of power or not, whether they're doing well in their life, financially or whatever, if I see somebody being like that, I respect them. I respect what they're doing because I want to be like that. I want to be giving. I want to be part of that. To also be giving and to be part of this wonderful world that we could have. And when I see people not being like that, being the opposite of that, and I've mentioned this several times in other videos, I am hurt when other people take without giving or hurt without reason or, just be selfish without remorse. There's that hurts me because we can be so much better than that. And we don't have to be selfish. We could be generous and the world would be so much better. So when I watched that, I was like, okay, I don't agree with all of his reasoning. I don't agree with everything he said, but his message was not that this is like the only way to go. This is his idea. This is his reasoning. And just like my reasoning is we can disagree. We can be kind to one another whether we agree or not. And that is the step that we need to take as a race, as a people. It's like, you are different, but you are my brothers. You are different, but you are my neighbors. And that was the thing about immigration, is we are all the sons of immigrants. We are all the sons and daughters. We are all the children of one people, pretty much. And whether you go back biblically or just historically, just near time, 100 years, most of us are the sons of immigrants. Most of us are the children of people who did not come from this country, or our grandparents didn't, or their parents didn't. So he was saying the Syrian immigrants, the people that their homes are gone, they're destroyed, they're completely obliterated, and if they go back, they might be murdered. We must treat them as people. We must treat them as our brothers and our neighbors. That kind of mentality that they are different, and we fear what is different. We fear these people we do not know. We see these people from this area that are, we are afraid of, and they look similar to them, or they're from a similar area that we are afraid because they have hurt us before. It's not them, they're an individual. They have not hurt us. We need to treat them with the respect and the humanity that they deserve. That kind of level of sincerity, if he's being truthful, that level of kindness and generosity, yes, it's dangerous, but we need that to be human, to be better. It's like when I think of all the times that I've put myself not in necessarily in physical danger, but in the idea that they could take advantage of my kindness, and it has happened, and I understand it could happen. These people that these immigrants or these refugees or whatever you want to call them, because people keep calling them different things, they could die if we don't help them. I mean, some of them will probably be okay, but we as the people that have the choice, we have the power to push them away or let them come. And we can say, at the border we stop them. At the border we remove them from the premise and pretend or fight them or whatever. We have this power. And the Pope was saying, do not push them away. They are us. They are our people. And that kind of, I know it's a conflicting, concept of they might hurt us. They might damage our country. They might, hurt our people. They might kill us. You're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of these people because of something other people have done. Other groups have done. These terrorist organizations that killed us. They hurt us. They threatened us. They destroyed our trust. That's what happened to me. That's what happened when I was taken advantage of too. And I need to get over that because it's wrong. And I've tried so hard. And we might be hurt again. We probably will, as a nation, as a people. We can be taken advantage of. But these other people have been hurt. They're refugees because their homes, a massive majority of them. There might be some in there that are just running for the sake of, getting somewhere better because they're coming from other places. But they're being displaced. They're not home anymore. They're refugees. Their homes are gone. And we have to see that. We have to understand that. People are trying to go to survive or to thrive or to be in a better place for either their families or themselves because they need it. They might die otherwise. So yes, it's a political statement. It is a very difficult concept because we are afraid of being hurt, of being taken advantage of more. Because after 9/11, what did we do? We were afraid. We were unified against an enemy. But we acted without thought. We acted with resentment and anger and fear. And yes, we were united in that front, and it was a very patriotic and powerful thing that we did. But we also acted irrationally and with hate in a lot of different ways. We attacked people. In the past, Pearl Harbor, we had internment camps here. We took the land and the property of people that looked like our enemies, and we took everything from them, and we detained them, and we tried to strip them of their dignity. And it happens all around the world all the time. We become fearful because we fear the unknown. We hate the unknown. We have to be better. What is being said, what is being presented was, they are us. Do not fear your brothers. Do not fear your neighbors. Love them. They might take advantage. That is always a possibility. But these are our brothers. We should give them the chance. We should give them the fairness. We should give them what they need to survive and thrive. And if something happens, deal with it. We can, pull out the bad egg, the people that are causing major problems. They should still be held accountable for their actions. We're not saying throw them in there and give them everything and just let them go nuts. There are things we have to do as a people, as human people, that are not easy and not. We're fearful, so it's not easy. We're like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Push them away. Let somebody else deal with it. Let them figure it out on their own. You're dismissing them. because of fear, because of hate, bigotry, or, apathy. And what I see the Pope doing, what I see him trying to say, is all of these things that we're apathetic about, all of these things that we're just kind of not institutionalized. We've been raised with the mentality of, it's this way, just deal with it. Media has portrayed it a certain way, government has portrayed it a certain way, corporations have portrayed it a certain way because of their political power and whatnot. Just let it go, let it continue the way it is. He's like, no, fight it. We are equal. We are all people. And the kind of argument that he made, which was corporations should be pushing for the benefit of the weak, for the money that they make should be given as an equalizing force so everyone has enough. And yeah, you can build up a whole bunch, but then you just build up everybody. So the more successful you are, the more successful everybody is. There's a wonderful mentality. It's not a trickle-down effect necessarily. It's everyone builds up at the same time, at the same pace. So it's kind of a socialist kind of a thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And that's another issue that people have. They're calling him a socialist. But he's not pushing for the government to become socialist. He's pushing for people to be more fair to each other. If that's a socialist idea, then you can say that, but you can't just call him that's associating him with everything. That is dismissing who he is, plugging in this other thing, and then saying that is what he is. And you can't do that. That's not fair. Now, a lot of things that we disagree on or that we don't understand about each other, culturally or, behaviorally, because, we don't I don't know everything he's done. He doesn't even know who I am. I don't mind. But I like to learn. I like to understand things. What I have seen has been good. And what he said today, earlier, was mostly, very, very mostly, a lot of it, was stuff that I think is good. It's good for people to be kind to each other. It's good to people to be given the rights of dignity. One of the things he said, dignity is important. You cannot take someone's dignity away. So he was talking about the poor and how the people have the power to be fair. The people in power should use that power for the good of everyone, for the community and society and the country and the world. And I don't see that as a bad thing at all. Why would somebody say that's a bad thing? You can't take somebody's dignity directly, but you can put them in a situation where they must sacrifice. And that's not good, because if you take away their resources and their peace of mind and their you can take away their freedom, you can take away a lot of things from somebody. They can maintain their dignity, but you can hurt them a lot. And you shouldn't try to do that. You shouldn't try to take somebody's dignity. So it's a hard concept, because a lot of people don't like, even I don't fully understand how you can damage somebody's dignity, but I know it's possible. Firing them from their jobs. Like in a lot of places, that's considered a grave insult or a grave, loss of honor. It's like you failed. So you can technically, depending on the culture of the region, take someone's dignity away simply by doing something to them, the external force. So don't try to do that. Be fair. Be kind, be generous, be giving. And I'm rambling, but it's just I loved it. I loved watching him. I mean, it was a little boring because he spoke so slowly, but again, it's not his first language. He definitely speaks other languages better. And so I'm not, what was it? Do not think lowly of the person who speaks broken English. They speak a second language. It means they know another language. I think that's kind of cool. I don't speak another language. I only speak English. So when somebody's speaking broken English, but they speak another language fluently, they probably speak it better than I speak English. Some of them speak English better than I speak English. I respect them. I mean, he's a great leader, as far as I can tell. He's presenting himself in a positive way. He's presenting his ideals in a very good way. That, as far as I've seen him be human. I've seen him be kind. I've seen him be generous. And whether I agree with everything he says, which I don't, there are things that I disagree with him, but as a person, I respect him. As his ideals reflect very powerfully with me because they're the same as mine. Be kind, be generous, be courteous, be fair, treat them with respect. He did mention the golden rule, treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. That in itself is a really good thing. It's not an eye for an eye. An eye for an eye is the opposite of that. That is, hurt others who have hurt you, which is not the golden rule. It's the opposite of the golden rule. It's like, that's like saying pretty much hurt me because I hurt you. No, it's the opposite. It's a reactionary thing. I think I mentioned that before. But I see him as a good person. I see him as trying to be, he's a very humble person as far as I could tell. I've never seen him self-aggrandize. I've never seen him say how great he is, or how wonderful he is, or how I am the most humble person ever. No, I've never seen him do anything. He is a person of great power, and I've seen him be very humble. That I don't know anything else about it. I've seen what I've seen. That's the stuff that I've associated with him. That's my 2 cents. That's everything I know about it. My voice is kind of going out, so I'm gonna end the video here. So I hope you have a nice day. I really liked it. I suggest watching it. Hopefully you can find it with subtitles because it is a little hard to follow. Maybe a text version of it, but it was a really interesting thing, and I was very happy. He's going to speak again later. I'm going to try to catch that as well. Not today. I think it's tomorrow. It's Philadelphia. I think he's going to talk about marriage more, family life more, and maybe even abortion. I don't know what his stance is on that. I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, I've seen conflicting information online about what he has said about it, so I really want to see what his views are on that, simply because I want to understand his reasoning, and I think that'll be a really cool thing to see. So I'll make a video about that when he does it too. So I hope you have a nice day, and I hope this was informative or entertaining or something, and peace.